Control is the key to freedom. If you can master your mouth, your mind, your mood, and your money, there's nothing in life you can't handle. Now think about that for a second. How often do we let our words create problems we didn't need? How often do we let our thoughts wander into doubt, or let our emotions dictate our actions? And let's be real. How often does our money seem to disappear without a trace? This isn't just about getting by. It's about thriving. If you're tired of feeling like life is pulling you in every direction, this is your chance to take control. You have the power to turn things around, but it starts with understanding where you stand and what you can change. Stay with me, because what we're about to cover isn't just advice. It's a game plan for living with intention, confidence, and control. Let's get started. Number 1, control your words. Control your world. Have you ever stopped to think about the power of your words? Not just the words you say to others, but the ones you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening. Most people underestimate this. They think words are just sounds or symbols strung together. But let me tell you something important. Your words have the power to shape your life. They influence the way others see you, the way you see yourself, and ultimately the results you get in life. That's why if you can control your words, you can control your world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's start with a simple truth. Everything you say matters. I don't care if it's a casual comment or a passionate speech. Every word you say plants a seed. Now, what kind of seed are you planting? Are you planting seeds of confidence, kindness, and encouragement? Or are you planting seeds of doubt, negativity, and regret? It's a question we all need to ask ourselves, because the words we choose determine the harvest we reap. Think about this for a second. Have you ever been around someone who constantly complains? You know the type. They always have something negative to say about the weather, their job, or other people. What happens when you spend time with them? Their negativity starts to rub off on you, doesn't it? Suddenly you feel drained, like their words suck the energy right out of you. Now flip the scenario. Imagine being around someone who speaks with positivity and encouragement. They're the kind of person who makes you feel like you can conquer the world. That's the power of words. So let's get practical. How do you take control of your words? It starts with awareness. You have to listen to yourself. Most of us speak on autopilot, saying whatever pops into our minds without thinking about the impact. That's a dangerous habit. Instead, train yourself to pause before you speak. It doesn't have to be a long pause. Just a moment to ask yourself, is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind? If the answer to any of those questions is no, don't say it. I promise you this small habit will save you from a lot of unnecessary conflict and regret. And let's be clear, this isn't about being silent. It's about being intentional. You see, some people think controlling your words means saying less, but that's not true. It's about saying what needs to be said, when it needs to be said in a way that serves a purpose. Speak with intention. Speak with clarity. Speak in a way that uplifts, informs, or inspires. If your words aren't doing any of those things, what's the point of saying them? But here's the thing. It's not just about what you say to others. It's also about what you say to yourself. Self-talk is one of the most powerful tools you have, and most people use it against themselves. They say things like, I'm not good enough, I always mess things up, or I'll never succeed. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. Listen, you cannot talk to yourself like that and expect to live a confident, successful life. It doesn't work that way. The way you talk to yourself sets the tone for everything else in your life. So I want you to start paying attention to your self-talk. What do you say to yourself when you're alone? When you make a mistake, do you beat yourself up? Or do you remind yourself that mistakes are part of the process? When you're facing a challenge, do you tell yourself it's too hard? Or do you say, I can figure this out? Your words create your reality. If you want to change your life, start by changing the way you talk to yourself. Now let's address a tough one. Negative words, gossiping, complaining, criticizing. These habits are far too common, and they're incredibly destructive. When you speak negatively, you're not just hurting others, you're hurting yourself. Every time you complain, you're training your brain to focus on problems instead of solutions. Every time you criticize, you're creating a habit of judgment instead of understanding. And let's not even get started on gossip. If you want to lose trust and respect faster than anything else, just start gossiping. The good news is, you can break these habits. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Start by replacing negative words with positive ones. Instead of complaining about what's wrong, talk about what's right. Instead of gossiping about someone, find something good to say about them. And instead of criticizing, offer constructive feedback or keep quiet. You'd be amazed at how quickly this shift can improve your relationships and your own sense of well-being. Here's something else to think about. How do people respond to your words? When you speak, do you see their faces light up or do they tense up? Pay attention to this because it's a reflection of your impact. If your words are leaving people feeling drained, it's time to make a change. On the other hand, if your words inspire and uplift, keep going. That's the kind of influence you want to have. I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next 24 hours, I want you to keep track of everything you say, every word. Write it down if you have to. At the end of the day, review it. Ask yourself, did I speak with intention? Did I say things that were true, necessary, and kind? Did I uplift or tear down? This exercise might surprise you. It might even shock you, but it will give you the awareness you need to start making changes. Let me remind you of this. Your words are a reflection of your character. They show the world who you are and what you stand for. When you control your words, you're not just controlling your communication. You're controlling your attitude, your relationships, and your life. So take this seriously. Master your words, and you'll master your world. It's as simple as that. Number 2, master your thoughts to master your actions. Your thoughts. What's going on up here? Your mind has more control over your life than almost anything else. If you want to take charge of your actions, your results, and your destiny, it all starts with mastering your thoughts. It's not complicated, but it's not easy either. Most people let their minds run on autopilot, and that's a dangerous way to live. If you're not in control of your thoughts, someone or something else is. And if you don't like the way your life looks right now, it's time to take back that control. Now I want you to think about this. Every action you take begins with a thought. Every decision, every choice, every success, and every failure, it all starts in your mind. That's why mastering your thoughts is so important. It's like the foundation of a house. If the foundation isn't strong, it doesn't matter how nice the house looks on the outside, it's going to crumble. Your mind works the same way. If your thoughts aren't aligned, your actions won't be either. Here's the first step to mastering your thoughts. Awareness. You have to know what's going on in your head. Most people don't even realize how much negative or unproductive thinking they're doing, because it's become a habit. They let their minds dwell on fear, doubt, and distractions without questioning it. So I want you to start paying attention to your thoughts. What are you focusing on throughout the day? Are you stuck worrying about what could go wrong? Or are you focused on what you can make go right? Awareness is the first step, because you can't change what you don't notice. Once you're aware of your thoughts, the next step is to challenge them. Not every thought you have is true or helpful. Just because something pops into your mind doesn't mean it deserves your attention or belief. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this, stop and ask yourself, why not? Is that really true? What's the evidence? More often than not, you'll find that those limiting thoughts have no real basis. They're just mental habits you've picked up over time. And the good news is, habits can be changed. Now here's where it gets powerful. When you challenge negative or limiting thoughts, you're not just rejecting them, you're replacing them with something better. If you tell yourself, I can't do this, replace it with, I'll figure it out. If you think, I always mess up, replace it with, I'm learning and I'm getting better every day. Your thoughts are like the steering wheel of a car. They direct where you're going. If you let negative thoughts take the wheel, don't be surprised when you end up in a place you don't want to be. But if you take control and guide your thoughts in a positive, productive direction, you'll be amazed at where you can go. Another key to mastering your thoughts is to be intentional about what you feed your mind. Think about this. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant and water is going to grow. If you're constantly consuming negative news, toxic social media, or anything that drags you down, what kind of garden do you think you're growing? But if you fill your mind with positive, empowering information, books, podcasts, conversations with inspiring people, you're planting seeds that will grow into something beautiful. Be selective about what you allow into your mind, because it all has an impact. Let's talk about distractions. In today's world, they're everywhere. Your phone buzzes, notifications pop up, and before you know it, your attention is scattered. Here's the problem. When your mind is distracted, you lose focus, and when you lose focus, you lose control. If you want to master your thoughts, you have to train your mind to focus, and I mean real focus. The kind where you're fully present and giving your best effort to whatever you're doing. Start small. Practice focusing on one thing at a time. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, over time you'll build the mental muscle to stay focused for longer periods. This kind of discipline is a game changer. Let me share something personal with you. There was a time when my own mind was my biggest obstacle. I'd wake up feeling overwhelmed, thinking about everything that could go wrong. It wasn't until I started actively managing my thoughts that things began to change. I realized I had a choice. I could let my mind control me, or I could take control of it. I started my days with gratitude, focusing on what I had, instead of what I lacked. I began setting clear intentions for what I wanted to achieve, and I made a habit of challenging any thought that didn't serve me. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but it was worth it. And if I can do it, so can you. Here's another thing to remember. Your thoughts are connected to your emotions. If your mind is filled with fear or doubt, it's no wonder you feel anxious or stressed. But when your thoughts are focused on hope, possibilities, and solutions, you feel empowered and optimistic. This isn't just about thinking happy thoughts. It's about training your mind to focus on what's constructive. When you control your thoughts, you gain control over your emotions. And when you control your emotions, you're in a much better position to take effective action. Let's talk about action for a moment. All the positive thinking in the world won't mean a thing if you don't back it up with action. Mastering your thoughts isn't about sitting around daydreaming. It's about using your mind as a tool to create the results you want. When you think clearly and intentionally, you're better equipped to make decisions, solve problems, and take steps toward your goals. Remember, your thoughts should be the fuel that drives your actions, not the other way around. Before we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next week, I want you to take inventory of your thoughts. Carry a notebook if you have to, and jot down any recurring patterns you notice. Are your thoughts helping you or holding you back? Are they focused on possibilities or problems? Once you've identified the patterns, start replacing any negative or unproductive thoughts with ones that align with the life you want to create. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Mastering your thoughts is one of the most important skills you'll ever develop. It's not something that happens overnight, but with consistency and effort, it's absolutely achievable. When you learn to direct your thoughts, you take control of your actions, your emotions, and ultimately, your life. And that's the kind of power we all want, isn't it? So start today. Take charge of your mind and watch how your life begins to change. You've got what it takes. Now go make it happen. Number 3, silence can be your best tool. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They fill every moment with noise, chatter, or distractions because they don't understand the value of being quiet. If you can learn to embrace silence, to use it as a tool rather than avoid it, you'll find yourself in control of situations, conversations, and even your own emotions in ways you never thought possible. Think about the last time you were in a heated discussion, or maybe even an argument. What's the instinct to fire back, defend yourself, or prove your point? Right? But what if you didn't? What if instead of reacting immediately, you paused? That silence can do a lot. It gives you a moment to think, to breathe, and to regain control of the situation. It also shifts the dynamic entirely. Silence can make the other person feel heard without you saying a word. It creates space for reflection, for understanding, and sometimes for de-escalation. Let's be honest. Most of us speak without thinking. We react out of habit or emotion, and the words come pouring out before we've had a chance to really process what we're saying. That's where silence comes in. When you pause even for a few seconds, you give yourself the opportunity to choose your words carefully. You get to decide if what you're about to say is helpful, necessary, or even true. That small pause can save you from saying something you'll regret or from adding fuel to a fire that doesn't need it. Now, silence isn't just about conversations with others. It's about the conversations you have with yourself, too. How often do we drown out our own thoughts with distractions? We turn on the TV, scroll through our phones, or fill every quiet moment with something, anything, just to avoid sitting alone with our thoughts. But silence is where clarity happens. It's where you can sort through the noise in your mind and get to the heart of what really matters. It's where you can reflect on your choices, your goals, and your direction in life. Silence is also where creativity thrives. Think about it, some of your best ideas probably came to you when you were alone, maybe on a quiet walk or just lying in bed at night. That's not a coincidence. Your brain needs space to think, to connect the dots, and to come up with solutions. If you're constantly filling your time with noise, you're cutting off that creative flow. Silence is like the blank page where your mind can write its best ideas. Here's something else to consider. Silence can be a sign of strength. In a world where everyone is trying to be louder, faster, and more aggressive, the ability to stay calm and quiet is rare and powerful. It shows confidence. It shows that you're in control, that you don't need to fill the air with words to prove your worth. People will notice that. They'll respect it. Silence commands attention in a way that shouting never can. But let's talk about the flip side. Because I know some of you might be thinking, doesn't silence make me look weak or passive? Not at all. Silence isn't about being passive. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing when to speak and when to hold back. It's about making your words count, rather than just filling the space. When you learn to use silence wisely, it becomes a tool for asserting your power, not giving it away. I want you to think about how silence applies to your daily life. Maybe it's in your relationships. How often do we jump to conclusions, interrupt, or try to fix things when all the other person really wants is for us to listen? Silence can be the greatest gift you give to someone. It shows them that you care enough to hear them out without rushing to respond. It builds trust, understanding, and connection. Or maybe it's at work. In a meeting, for example, you don't always have to be the first one to speak. Sometimes staying quiet and observing gives you an edge. It allows you to hear everyone else's perspective, to gather information, and to come in with a thoughtful response that carries more weight than just speaking for the sake of being heard. Silence can make you look wise, composed, and strategic. And then there's the personal side of silence, the kind you find in solitude. This is where you really get to know yourself. When you're alone and quiet, without distractions, you can tune in to what's going on inside. Are you happy with where you're at? Are you on the right path? What do you really want out of life? These are the kinds of questions that only come up in the stillness, and the answers can be life-changing if you're willing to listen. Now, I'm not saying silence is always easy. It can be uncomfortable at first. We're so used to noise and activity that sitting in silence can feel awkward or even unsettling. But like anything, it's a skill. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Start small. Take a few minutes each day to sit quietly. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. Notice how it feels. Notice what comes up. Over time, you'll find that those moments of silence become something you look forward to. A chance to recharge, to reflect, and to reconnect with yourself. I also want you to think about the impact silence can have on your stress levels. When you're constantly surrounded by noise and stimulation, your mind doesn't get a chance to rest. That constant input can leave you feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and drained. Silence is like a reset button for your mind. It gives you space to breathe, to decompress, and to let go of the mental clutter. It's not just a luxury, it's a necessity for your mental health and well-being. Let me leave you with this: silence isn't empty. It's full of potential. It's full of clarity, insight, and power. It's a tool that can help you communicate better, think more clearly, and live more intentionally. So don't be afraid of it. Embrace it, use it, and watch how it transforms your life. You have the power to control the noise in your world. All it takes is the decision to choose silence when it matters most. Trust me, it's a decision you won't regret. Number 4, emotions are temporary. Discipline is forever. They're a big part of life, aren't they? They drive how we react, how we make decisions, and even how we see the world. But here's the thing, emotions are temporary. They come and go like waves, rising and falling depending on what's happening around us. Discipline, on the other hand, is something you can build. It's permanent. It's a choice you make every day, no matter how you feel. If you can learn to prioritize discipline over emotions, you'll unlock a kind of strength that most people never tap into. Think about it. How often do we let our emotions dictate our actions? When you're angry, you might lash out. When you're sad, you might withdraw, or even give up on something important. When you're excited, you might make impulsive decisions that you later regret. Emotions can be overwhelming, and if you're not careful, they can lead you down a path you don't want to be on. But when you rely on discipline, you don't have to let your emotions control you. Discipline allows you to stay on track, even when your emotions are all over the place. Let's break this down. Imagine you've set a goal to get in shape. You've made a plan to exercise 3 times a week, and eat healthier meals. But then one morning you wake up, and you're just not feeling it. Maybe you're tired, or the weather's bad, or you're in a bad mood. That's your emotions talking, trying to convince you to skip the workout and stay in bed. If you give in, you're letting your emotions win. But if you've built discipline, you'll get up and do the workout anyway, because you know it's part of the plan. Discipline says, I don't care how I feel right now. I'm doing this because it's important. Discipline isn't about ignoring your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them but not letting them take over. It's okay to feel tired, frustrated, or even scared. Those feelings are normal, but they don't have to dictate your actions. When you're disciplined, you act based on your values, your goals, and your commitments, not just on how you feel in the moment. That's where real power comes from. I want you to think about the last time you let your emotions get the best of you. Maybe you said something in anger that you later regretted. Maybe you gave up on a project because you felt discouraged. Or maybe you missed an opportunity because you were too nervous to take the leap. Now imagine if, in that moment, you had taken a step back and chosen discipline instead. What would have been different? How might things have turned out? The truth is, discipline doesn't come naturally. It's something you have to work on every single day. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And just like with any skill, you're going to mess up sometimes. You're going to have days where your emotions win. And that's okay. What matters is that you keep trying. Every time you choose discipline over emotions, you're making progress. You're becoming stronger, more focused, and more resilient. One of the keys to building discipline is having a clear sense of purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the bigger picture? When you have a strong why, it's easier to stay disciplined because you're not just doing things for the sake of doing them. You're working towards something meaningful. So if you're trying to save money, remind yourself of the reason. Maybe it's to buy a house, pay off debt, or create a better future for your family. If you're trying to stick to a fitness routine, think about the benefits, not just looking better, but feeling stronger, having more energy, and improving your overall health. When you focus on your why, it becomes a lot easier to push through those moments when your emotions try to pull you off course. Another important aspect of discipline is creating systems and routines. When you have a plan in place, you don't have to rely as much on motivation or willpower, which, let's be honest, can be pretty unreliable. Discipline thrives in structure. If you know exactly what you need to do, and when you need to do it, there's less room for emotions to derail you. For example, if you decide ahead of time that you're going to work out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m., it becomes a non-negotiable part of your schedule. You don't have to think about it or debate with yourself. It's just what you do. It's also helpful to anticipate the times when your emotions are most likely to get in the way. Maybe you know that you tend to get frustrated when things don't go as planned, or that you're more likely to procrastinate when you're feeling overwhelmed. When you're aware of these patterns, you can prepare for them. You can have strategies in place to help you stay disciplined even when your emotions are trying to take over. Maybe that means taking a few deep breaths, writing down your thoughts, or reminding yourself of your long-term goals. Whatever works for you, the key is to be proactive rather than reactive. One thing I want to emphasize is that discipline doesn't mean being rigid or never having fun. It's not about denying yourself or living a life without joy. Discipline is about balance. It's about knowing when to indulge and when to hold back. It's about making intentional choices that align with your values and goals. So if you've been disciplined all week and you want to treat yourself to a slice of cake or a night out with friends, go for it. The key is to do it mindfully, not as a reaction to emotions like stress or boredom. Ultimately, discipline is about freedom. It might not feel like it at first. After all, discipline can be uncomfortable, and it often requires sacrifice. But over time, it gives you the freedom to live the life you want. When you're disciplined with your time, you have more of it to spend on the things that matter most. When you're disciplined with your finances, you have the freedom to make choices without being held back by debt or scarcity. When you're disciplined with your health, you have the energy and strength to enjoy life to the fullest. Discipline isn't a restriction, it's an investment in your future. So the next time your emotions start to take over, pause. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself of your purpose, your plan, and your potential. And then make the disciplined choice, even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable. Because every time you do, you're not just building discipline, you're building the life you want. And that, my friend, is worth every bit of effort. Number 5. Focus on what you can control. Life throws a lot at us. There's no shortage of distractions, obstacles, and unpredictable events that can pull us off course. But here's the truth. A lot of what we worry about or stress over is completely outside our control. The moment we start focusing on things we can't change, we lose our power. But when we shift our energy to what we can control, everything changes. Let's face it, there are things in life that are simply out of our hands. You can't control the weather, the economy, or how other people behave. You can't control the past or even predict the future with certainty. Yet so many of us spend hours, days, even dwelling on these things. Maybe you're replaying a mistake you made years ago, or you're obsessing over what someone else thinks of you, or you're panicking about a potential scenario that hasn't even happened yet. All of that energy is wasted, because no amount of thinking, worrying, or stressing will change those things. What you can control, however, is how you respond. And that is where your power lies. When you start focusing on what's within your control, you take responsibility for your life. You start to see that you have choices. You can't control if someone criticizes you, but you can choose how you react. You can't control if a storm cancels your plans, but you can decide how you'll adjust. You can't control the stock market, but you can control your spending and saving habits. There's freedom in recognizing the line between what you can and cannot control. It allows you to let go of the things you can't change and double down on the things you can. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is learning to control your attitude. Your attitude is entirely within your control. It doesn't matter what's happening around you. You can decide how you're going to view the situation. You can see challenges as obstacles, or you can see them as opportunities to grow. You can let setbacks make you bitter, or you can let them make you better. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything's perfect when it's not. It means choosing to focus on solutions rather than problems. It means looking for the lesson in every difficulty. That choice is yours every single day. Another area where you have control is your effort. No one can control how hard you work except for you. Whether it's your career, your relationships, or your personal goals, the amount of effort you put in is entirely up to you. You might not be the most talented person in the room. You might not have all the resources or advantages that someone else does, but you can control how much effort you give. And effort beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. When you focus on giving your best, no matter the circumstances, you build a reputation for resilience and determination. People notice that kind of energy and it creates opportunities. Your time is another thing you can control, even though it might not feel like it sometimes. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, but how you use that time is up to you. Are you spending it on things that matter to you, or are you letting distractions eat it up? Are you saying yes to things out of obligation, or are you being intentional about where your time goes? Time is one of your most valuable resources, and when you take control of how you spend it, you start to see big changes in your life. It might mean setting boundaries, saying no more often, or being more disciplined about your schedule, but it's worth it. Your habits are another thing you can control. Habits are powerful because they shape your life one small action at a time. If you're stuck in a cycle of bad habits, whether it's procrastination, unhealthy eating, or negative self-talk, it's easy to feel like change is impossible. But habits are just patterns, and patterns can be broken. You can start small. Focus on one habit at a time. Maybe it's drinking more water, waking up 30 minutes earlier, or spending 10 minutes a day reading something inspiring. The key is to choose habits that align with the life you want to create and then commit to them consistently. Over time, those small changes add up to big results. Now let's talk about relationships. You can't control other people, their opinions, their actions, or their choices. But you can control the kind of energy you bring into a relationship. You can control how you communicate, how you set boundaries, and how you show up for the people you care about. When you focus on being the best version of yourself, you attract better relationships. You set the standard for how you want to be treated, and you let go of relationships that don't meet that standard. It's not about changing other people. It's about changing yourself and watching how that transformation affects the people around you. Of course, controlling what you can doesn't mean ignoring everything else. It's about finding the balance between acceptance and action. You accept what you can't change, but you take action on what you can. You stop wasting energy on things outside your control and invest that energy into areas where you can make a difference. It's a simple concept, but it's not always easy to practice. It takes awareness, discipline, and a willingness to let go of things that don't serve you. So how do you start? It begins with self-awareness. Pay attention to where your energy is going. Are you caught up in things you can't change, or are you focusing on what's within your control? When you catch yourself worrying about something outside your control, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what can I do about this? If the answer is nothing, let it go. If there's something you can do, focus on that. Next, start small. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Pick one area where you want to take more control and start there. Maybe it's your attitude, your time, or a specific habit. Commit to making a small, consistent effort in that area and build from there. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small, and use it as motivation to keep going. Be patient with yourself. This isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. There will be times when you slip up, when you let emotions or distractions take over. That's okay. What matters is that you recognize it, adjust, and keep moving forward. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward a more focused, intentional, and empowered life. When you focus on what you can control, you take back your power. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the creator of your own life. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. So take a deep breath, look at where you are right now, and ask yourself, what can I control? Then go out and do something about it. Because when you focus on what you can control, you change everything. Number 6, set financial boundaries. This might not sound like the most exciting topic at first, but trust me, this is one of the most critical areas of your life to get under control. Because when you take charge of your money, you take charge of your future. A lack of financial boundaries is like leaving the door to your house wide open. You're inviting chaos in. We don't want that. We want clarity, structure, and a sense of security. So what does it mean to set financial boundaries? It's about creating clear rules for how you earn, spend, save, and share your money. It's about knowing where your money is going and making sure it's working for you instead of against you. Far too often, people let their finances run on autopilot, and that's where trouble begins. They spend without thinking, give without limits, or save without purpose. Before they know it, they're stuck in a cycle of debt, stress, and regret. But it doesn't have to be that way. The first step to setting financial boundaries is understanding your money. You've got to face the numbers, even if it feels uncomfortable. Look at your income, your expenses, your debts, and your savings. Write it all down. This isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. Because you can't set boundaries if you don't know where you stand. Once you have a clear picture, you can start making decisions about what needs to change. Now, one of the most important financial boundaries you can set is living within your means. That might sound simple, but in a world where credit cards are easy to swipe and social media constantly tempts us with the latest and greatest, it's not always easy. Living within your means means spending less than you earn. It means saying no to things you can't afford, even when they're tempting. It's about choosing long-term stability over short-term gratification. And let me tell you, the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're not overextending yourself is worth far more than any material possession. Another key boundary is deciding how much you're going to save and sticking to it. Savings aren't just for emergencies, they're for opportunities, they're for freedom. When you have money set aside, you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You have options. You can take risks, make investments, or handle unexpected expenses without panic. But saving requires discipline. It requires deciding, this percentage of my income is non-negotiable. It's going into savings every month, no matter what. It's a boundary you set for yourself, and you honor it because you know it's for your own good. Let's talk about debt for a moment. Debt is one of the biggest barriers to financial freedom. And if you're not careful, it can spiral out of control. Setting boundaries with debt means being honest about what you can afford to borrow and knowing when to say no. It means paying attention to interest rates, reading the fine print, and understanding the true cost of what you're borrowing. If you're already in debt, setting boundaries means creating a plan to pay it off and sticking to that plan even when it's tough. It's about making sacrifices now so you can have freedom later. Spending is another area where boundaries are essential. You need to know where your money is going, and you need to make sure it aligns with your values and priorities. That means creating a budget. I know. Budgets don't sound fun, but a budget isn't about restriction. It's about intention. It's about deciding in advance where your money will go, instead of wondering where it went. It's about making sure your spending reflects what's important to you, whether that's your family, your education, your health, or your future. Generosity is a beautiful thing, but even generosity needs boundaries. It's easy to fall into the trap of giving too much, whether it's to friends, family, or causes you care about, at the expense of your own financial well-being. Setting boundaries around giving means being clear about what you can afford to give and sticking to that limit. It means saying no when you need to, without guilt, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help others if you're not financially stable yourself. One of the hardest financial boundaries to set is saying no to yourself. We live in a culture that encourages instant gratification. If you want something, you can buy it with the click of a button. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Setting boundaries with yourself means practicing delayed gratification. It means asking yourself, do I really need this? Will this purchase bring me closer to my goals or take me further away? It's about prioritizing your future over your impulses. And yes, it's hard at first, but the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. Now here's something important. Financial boundaries aren't just about what you don't do. They're also about what you do. They're about creating habits that support your financial goals. For example, automating your savings is a great boundary to set. It takes the decision-making out of the equation. The money goes straight into your savings account, and you don't have to think about it. Another example is setting a specific time each month to review your finances. It's a boundary you set with yourself to stay accountable and make adjustments as needed. Boundaries also extend to your relationships. Money can be a tricky topic in families, friendships, and partnerships. But it's important to communicate your boundaries clearly. If someone asks for financial help and it's outside your budget, it's okay to say no. If you're in a relationship, it's important to talk openly about money and agree on shared boundaries. This isn't about being selfish or rigid. It's about protecting your financial health so you can show up fully in your relationships without resentment or stress. One of the most empowering things about setting financial boundaries is that it gives you a sense of control. You're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances. You're no longer reactive. You're proactive. You have a plan and you're sticking to it. And that feeling, that sense of being in control of your money, spills over into other areas of your life. It builds confidence, reduces stress, and creates a foundation for achieving your goals. Here's the bottom line. Your financial boundaries are there to serve you, not restrict you. They're there to help you live the life you want, without the stress and chaos that comes from mismanaging money. They're about taking care of yourself now and setting yourself up for success in the future. And the best part, you're in control. You get to decide what your boundaries are. You get to enforce them. And you get to reap the benefits of a life where your money works for you, not against you. So start today. Take a hard look at your finances. Decide where you need boundaries and commit to them. Because when you take control of your money, you take control of your life. Number 7. Delay gratification for bigger rewards. This might sound like a tough pill to swallow in today's world, where we're surrounded by convenience and instant everything. You want it, you click a button, and it's on its way. Whether it's food, entertainment, or even success, we've been conditioned to believe that faster is better. But let me tell you something. Real success, lasting success, doesn't come from chasing immediate rewards. It comes from learning how to wait, how to invest your time, energy, and resources wisely, so you can reap greater benefits down the road. Delaying gratification is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. It's the ability to say no to what feels good right now, so you can say yes to something even better later. That might sound simple, but it's not always easy. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, so when the opportunity to indulge presents itself, it's tempting to just go for it. But here's the truth. Every time you give in to instant gratification, you're trading away a piece of your future. Every impulse buy, every wasted hour, every shortcut, it all adds up. And over time, it creates a life that's smaller, less fulfilling, and less aligned with your goals. So how do we train ourselves to delay gratification? First, you've got to get crystal clear on your long-term goals. What do you want out of life? What are you working toward? If you don't have a vision for your future, it's easy to get caught up in the here and now, to chase after things that don't really matter. But when you have a clear goal, when you know what you're striving for, it becomes easier to resist the distractions and temptations around you. You can remind yourself, this is what I'm working for, and I'm not going to let anything derail me. One of the best ways to practice delaying gratification is to create systems that support your goals. Let's say you're saving for something big, maybe a house, a car, or even an investment in your education. Instead of relying on willpower to stop yourself from spending, set up an automatic transfer to your savings account every time you get paid. That way the decision is already made. You're not tempted to spend that money because it's already out of sight, out of reach. Systems take the pressure off you to constantly make the right choice, and they make it easier to stay on track. Another key to delaying gratification is learning how to deal with discomfort. Let's be honest, waiting isn't fun. It can be frustrating, even painful, to hold off on something you want, especially when it feels like everyone else is enjoying it right now. But discomfort is temporary, and it's a small price to pay for the rewards that come later. Think about it like this. Every time you resist an impulse, every time you choose patience over indulgence, you're building a muscle. And the more you exercise that muscle, the stronger it gets. Over time, you'll find it easier and easier to wait, because you'll start to see the benefits of your discipline. Mindset plays a huge role in this process. If you're constantly focused on what you're missing out on, delaying gratification will feel like a punishment. But if you shift your perspective and focus on what you're gaining, it becomes an act of empowerment. Instead of saying, "I can't have this right now," say, "I'm choosing to wait because I'm building something bigger." That subtle shift in language can make all the difference. It turns the experience from one of deprivation to one of purpose and intention. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're trying to get in shape. You've got a goal to lose weight, build muscle, or run a marathon. Whatever it is, you know it's going to take time. You'll have to make sacrifices, saying no to junk food, getting up early to exercise, pushing through workouts when you'd rather be relaxing. In the moment, those sacrifices might feel hard. But every time you choose to delay gratification, every healthy meal you eat, every workout you complete, you're moving closer to your goal. And when you finally reach it, when you look in the mirror and see the results of your hard work, it'll all be worth it. The same principle applies to your finances, your relationships, your career, every area of your life. When you learn to delay gratification, you're not just making sacrifices, you're making investments. You're planting seeds that will grow into something incredible, something far greater than the quick fix you could have had in the moment. And here's the best part. The more you practice, the more you'll start to enjoy the process. You'll find satisfaction in the act of waiting, in knowing that you're doing what's best for your future. Of course, there will be setbacks. You'll have moments where you give in, where you indulge, where you slip up, and that's okay. The important thing is to not let those moments derail you. When you stumble, pick yourself back up and keep going. Remind yourself why you're doing this and get back on track. Because the road to success isn't a straight line. It's a series of choices, day after day, moment after moment. Now let's talk about the rewards of delaying gratification. When you practice this skill, you're not just achieving your goals, you're becoming a stronger, more disciplined, more resilient person. You're developing the kind of character that can withstand challenges, that can persevere in the face of adversity. And that's something no one can take away from you. The rewards you gain from delaying gratification go far beyond the material. They shape who you are and how you show up in the world. So here's my challenge to you. Start small. Pick one area of your life where you want to improve and practice delaying gratification. Maybe it's cutting back on unnecessary spending, or sticking to a workout plan, or saying no to distractions so you can focus on your goals. Whatever it is, commit to it. Be intentional. And when it gets hard, remind yourself of the bigger picture, because every choice you make is a step toward the life you want. You have the power to create a life that's rich with meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. But it starts with the choices you make today. It starts with learning to wait, to invest, to build. And I promise you, when you look back on your journey, you won't regret a single moment you spent practicing discipline. You'll be proud of the person you've become and the life you've created. So start now, delay gratification, and watch how your world begins to change. Number 8, your daily habits define your destiny. Let's talk about daily habits and how they shape your destiny. This is one of those truths that's both empowering and, for some people, a little uncomfortable. Why? Because it puts the responsibility squarely on your shoulders. What you do every single day determines where you'll end up in life. It's not the big moments or grand gestures that define your future. It's the small, consistent actions you take, day in and day out. Those habits, whether you're aware of them or not, are building your life. The question is, are they building the life you want? Habits are powerful because they're automatic. Once something becomes a habit, you don't have to think about it. It's like driving a car. When you first learn, you have to focus on every little thing, adjusting the mirrors, pressing the pedals, steering. But over time it becomes second nature. You just do it without even thinking. That's how habits work. The more you repeat an action, the more ingrained it becomes. And before you know it, that action is shaping your life, whether for better or for worse. Now let me ask you something. What do your current habits say about your future? If you were to keep doing exactly what you're doing right now, where would you end up in 5 years, 10 years? If that thought makes you uneasy, good. It means you're waking up to the reality that your habits might not be serving you. But the good news is, you can change them. You're not stuck. You have the power to create new habits. Habits that align with your goals and your vision for your life. The first step is awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So take an honest look at your daily routines. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? How do you spend your time throughout the day? What are your default actions when you're bored, stressed, or tired? Write it all down if you need to. Be brutally honest with yourself. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about understanding where you are so you can start moving in the direction you want to go. Once you've identified your habits, it's time to make some choices. Which habits are serving you? Which ones are holding you back? And what new habits do you need to create to get where you want to go? Let's say you have a habit of scrolling through your phone first thing in the morning. That might not seem like a big deal, but think about what it's costing you. Instead of starting your day with focus and intention, you're starting it with distraction. Now imagine replacing that habit with something more purposeful, like journaling, meditating, or exercising. How would that one change affect the rest of your day? How would it affect your life over time?
Creating new habits isn't about willpower. It's about systems. If you rely on willpower, you'll eventually burn out. But if you create a system, you set yourself up for success. For example, if you want to start working out every morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Set an alarm and put it across the room so you have to get out of bed to turn it off. Make it as easy as possible to follow through. The more friction you can remove, the more likely you are to stick with it. It's also important to start small. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to change their habits is taking on too much at once. They try to overhaul their entire life in one go, and when it gets overwhelming, they give up. Don't do that. Start with one habit, one small change, and focus on that until it becomes automatic. Then add another. Success builds on success. Each small win gives you the confidence and momentum to keep going. Consistency is key. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, day after day, even when you don't feel like it. There will be days when it's hard, days when you're tired, unmotivated, or just plain fed up. But those are the days that matter most. Every time you push through and stick to your habit, you're reinforcing it. You're proving to yourself that you can do it. And over time, those small actions add up to big results. Another thing to keep in mind is the power of environment. Your environment can either support your habits or sabotage them. If you're trying to eat healthy but your kitchen is full of junk food, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you want to be more productive, but your workspace is cluttered and distracting, it's going to be hard to focus. Take a good look at your environment and make changes to support the habits you want to build. Surround yourself with reminders of your goals. Create spaces that inspire you to take action. Let's talk about accountability. It's a lot easier to stick to a habit when you have someone holding you accountable. That could be a friend, a mentor, a coach, or even a group of like-minded people. Share your goals with them and ask for their support. Check in with them regularly and let them know how you're doing. Accountability adds an extra layer of motivation and keeps you on track, especially on the days when you're tempted to slack off. Now, I want to address something that often trips people up: setbacks. No matter how committed you are, there will be times when you mess up. You'll skip a workout, procrastinate on a task, or fall back into an old habit. It happens to everyone. The key is not to let a setback turn into a full-blown failure. When you stumble, get back up, learn from it, and keep moving forward. Progress, not perfection, is what matters. Remember, habits are a reflection of your values. They show what you prioritize and what you're willing to work for. So as you build new habits, think about the kind of person you want to become. Do your habits align with that vision? Are they helping you become the best version of yourself? If not, make the changes you need to make.
It won't always be easy, but it will be worth it. As you go through this process, be patient with yourself. Change takes time, and lasting change doesn't happen overnight. But with consistent effort, you'll start to see results. And as those results compound, you'll realize just how powerful daily habits are. They're the foundation of your success, the building blocks of your destiny. So take control of them. Be intentional about how you spend your time and energy. Because every small action you take today is shaping the life you'll live tomorrow. And that's a responsibility and an opportunity that's entirely in your hands. Number 9, investing for the future. When we talk about investing for the future, the first thing that comes to mind for most people is money. And while financial investment is a critical part of the conversation, it's not the whole story. The truth is, you're always investing in something, whether you realize it or not. Every choice you make, every action you take, every hour you spend, these are all investments. The question isn't whether you're investing, it's whether you're investing wisely. Are you putting your time, energy, and resources into things that will give you a return? Or are you squandering them on things that won't matter 5 years from now? Let's start with the obvious, financial investment. If you want to build wealth, you need to learn how to make your money work for you. It's not enough to earn money. You have to put it to work. And that starts with a mindset shift. Stop thinking of money as something to spend and start thinking of it as a tool for growth. Every dollar you earn is an opportunity. You can either spend it on something fleeting or you can invest it in something that will grow over time. That's the foundation of wealth building. Now, when it comes to actual financial investments, there are plenty of options. Stocks, real estate, mutual funds, businesses, the list goes on. The key is to educate yourself. Don't just throw your money at something because it sounds good or because someone else is doing it. Take the time to understand what you're investing in. Learn the basics. Study the risks and the rewards. And most importantly, think long-term. Real wealth isn't built overnight. It's the result of consistent, patient effort over time. But let's not stop at financial investments, because there's another kind of wealth that's just as important, if not more so, personal growth. Investing in yourself is one of the best decisions you can make. Think about it. Your skills, your knowledge, your mindset. These are things that no one can take away from you. They're your most valuable assets. So how do you invest in yourself? Start with education. Read books, take courses, learn new skills. The world is constantly changing. And the more adaptable and knowledgeable you are, the more opportunities you'll have. And don't just focus on professional skills. Personal growth matters too. Work on your mindset. Develop self-discipline. Build emotional resilience. These things might not show up on a resume, but they'll have a huge impact on your life. Because when you invest in yourself, you're not just improving your current circumstances, you're setting yourself up for a better future. You're becoming the kind of person who can handle challenges, seize opportunities, and create success. Let's also talk about relationships, because they're an investment too. The people you surround yourself with have a massive impact on your life. They can lift you up or drag you down. They can inspire you or distract you. So ask yourself, who are you investing your time and energy in? Are they people who support your goals and encourage your growth? Or are they people who drain your energy and hold you back? Be intentional about your relationships. Seek out people who inspire you, challenge you, and push you to be better. And just as importantly, be that kind of person for others. Relationships are a two-way street. If you want strong, meaningful connections, you have to put in the effort. Another area to consider is your health. Your body is your vehicle for life. And if you don't take care of it, everything else will suffer. Investing in your health doesn't have to be complicated. It's about the basics: eating nutritious food, staying active, getting enough sleep, and managing stress. These might seem like small things, but they add up. And the sooner you start, the better. Because the choices you make today will determine how you feel and function in the years to come. Don't wait until there's a problem to start taking care of yourself. Be proactive. Treat your health as a priority, not an afterthought. Now let's circle back to the idea of time, because it's one of the most valuable resources you have. Unlike money, you can't earn more of it. Once it's gone, it's gone. So how are you spending your time? Are you investing it in things that matter, or are you wasting it on distractions and trivialities? Take a good hard look at how you're spending your days. Are you working toward your goals? Are you spending quality time with your loved ones? Are you taking care of yourself? Or are you letting your time slip away on things that don't really matter? One of the best ways to invest your time is to focus on habits. What you do consistently shapes your future. Small positive actions, repeated over time, lead to big results. So think about the habits you want to build. Do you want to exercise regularly? Read more? Save money? Whatever it is, start small. Commit to it and stick with it. Over time, those habits will become second nature, and they'll lead you closer to your goals. Finally, let's talk about the importance of vision. Before you can invest wisely, you need to know what you're investing for. What kind of future do you want to create? What does success look like for you? Take the time to think about it. Write it down. Be specific. Because once you have a clear vision, everything else becomes easier. You'll know where to focus your time, energy, and resources. You'll know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And you'll have the motivation to keep going, even when it's tough. Investing for the future is about more than just money. It's about making choices today that will create a better tomorrow. It's about being intentional with your time, energy, and resources. It's about focusing on what matters most. So take a moment to reflect. Where are you investing right now? And is it leading you to the future you want? If not, it's time to make a change, because your future is too important to leave to chance. It's in your hands, and you have the power to shape it. All it takes is a decision to start investing, wisely, intentionally, and with purpose, starting today. Number 10, decide to take responsibility today. Taking responsibility is a decision. It's not something you stumble into, and it's not something that just happens over time. It's a conscious choice, one that you make with clarity and intention. And the beauty of it is that it can happen at any moment. You don't need to wait for the perfect time or for someone else to give you permission. You just decide. Today is the day you take ownership of your life. When you choose responsibility, you're saying, "This is my life, and I'm in control." That's a powerful statement, because it means you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances or other people. You're no longer blaming your past, your boss, your parents, or anyone else. You're taking the reins and saying, "If it's going to be, it's up to me." That kind of mindset is a game changer. Think about this. Everything in your life right now, good or bad, is a result of the choices you've made up to this point. And I know that can be a hard pill to swallow, because it's so much easier to point the finger. It's easy to say, "I'm in this situation because of them," or "I can't move forward because of that." But the truth is, when you blame someone or something else, you give away your power. You're essentially saying, "I can't change this because it's not up to me." And as long as you believe that, you're stuck. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that's gone wrong. It's not about guilt or shame. It's about empowerment. It's about looking at your life and saying, "I got myself here and I can get myself out." It's about acknowledging that while you can't control everything that happens to you, you can always control how you respond. You can always choose your next step. When you take responsibility, you stop being reactive and start being proactive. Instead of waiting for things to change, you take action. Instead of hoping for a better future, you create one. And it starts with small, simple decisions. Maybe it's deciding to wake up earlier. Maybe it's deciding to save a little money each month. Maybe it's deciding to treat people with more kindness, or to take care of your health. Whatever it is, the point is that you're making the decision, not leaving it up to chance. Responsibility also means being honest with yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and asking, what am I doing that's helping me? And what am I doing that's holding me back? That kind of self-reflection isn't always easy. Sometimes it means admitting that you've made mistakes. Sometimes it means acknowledging that you've been your own worst enemy. But here's the thing. The moment you take responsibility for those mistakes, they lose their power over you. Because now you're in control. Now you can learn from them and move forward. And let me tell you something. There's freedom in responsibility. It might sound counterintuitive, because responsibility often feels like a burden. But when you take responsibility for your life, you realize you're not tied to anyone else's expectations or limitations. You're free to choose your path. You're free to make mistakes and learn from them. You're free to create the life you want. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean on others when you need support. Responsibility isn't about isolation. It's about ownership. It's about saying, "This is my life, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it better." Sometimes that means reaching out for guidance or partnering with someone who can help you grow. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. One of the most empowering things about responsibility is that it puts you in the driver's seat. You get to decide what kind of person you want to be. You get to decide what kind of life you want to live. And it's not about being perfect. It's about progress. It's about making better choices today than you did yesterday. It's about learning, growing, and becoming the best version of yourself. Now let's talk about the excuses, because we all have them, don't we? I don't have time. I don't have the resources. It's too hard. These excuses are like chains, keeping you from moving forward. But the truth is, most of them are just stories we tell ourselves to avoid taking action. If you're waiting for the perfect time, it's not coming. If you're waiting for someone else to fix your problems, they're not coming. It's up to you. And that's a good thing, because it means you don't have to wait. You can start right now. Taking responsibility also means being patient with yourself. Change doesn't happen overnight. Growth takes time. There will be setbacks and challenges along the way, but that's okay. The important thing is that you keep moving forward. You keep taking steps, even if they're small ones, because every step you take is a step closer to the life you want. Let me ask you this: what kind of legacy do you want to leave? When people look back on your life, what do you want them to say? Do you want them to say, he was always making excuses, or she was always blaming someone else? Or do you want them to say, he took charge of his life, or she was a force to be reckoned with? That legacy starts with responsibility. It starts with the decisions you make today. So here's my challenge to you. Decide. Decide that today is the day you take responsibility for your life. Decide that you're going to stop blaming and start doing. Decide that you're going to own your choices, your actions, and your future. It's not always going to be easy, but I promise you, it's worth it. Because when you take responsibility, you take control. And when you take control, there's no limit to what you can achieve.